And Caitlin had 3 assists in the first 3 minutes of the game. Then both her and Aaliyah checked out, I think, around the 6:30 mark. Then Portland went on a 13-2 run. Just what was the reasoning for checking them out, or did they either of them request a sub?
Well, AB's still on a minutes restriction, so she's coming out. And typically that's around the same time that we've been taking Caitlin out before. We didn't in Golden State just because, quite honestly, we didn't Raven in that environment without another ball handler on the floor. So that's been our typical substitution.
That answer right there set the whole thing off. Caitlin Clark drops 3 assists in the first 3 minutes, looks like she's about to take over, and then, she's on the bench. The coach gets asked why, and the explanation, it does not match what actually happened on the floor. Let me show you exactly where this falls apart.
So I want to start right here. That was a lie. That was a lie, fam. If you look at the first 2 games, they checked her out around like 8 minutes. I remember specifically breaking down the Dallas game, and I remember she dove for an out-of-bounds ball. It was an out-of-bounds play, basically. She dove for the ball, and when she didn't get it, she turned over and she fell flat because she was exhausted. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Here's the claim. Stephanie White says the substitution pattern is normal. That pulling Caitlin around the 6-minute mark is just routine, the same timing they've used all season. But, that's not what the tape says. Go back to the first 2 games. Against Dallas, Caitlin played roughly 8 minutes before her first rest. I broke that game down myself. She dove for a loose ball on an out-of-bounds play, came up empty, and rolled over flat on the floor because she was gassed. That was a real reason to sit her. Against the Sparks? Same thing, music, about 8 minutes before the hook. So, when the minutes suddenly shrink to 3 before she's pulled, and the answer is, this is just our normal pattern, that doesn't hold up.
And kind of on that as well, Caitlin picked up her 4th foul, had to come out in the 3rd. Raven had her 4th foul in the 3rd as well. Just how did that affect your point guard rotation, losing those ball handlers?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough when you have your primary ball handlers that are, in foul trouble. It affects, your ability, number one, for them to be on the floor, and number 2, I thought Portland did a really good job of attacking the matchups that they wanted. And that created foul trouble, that created rotations. It created opportunities for them to run free for offensive rebounds as well because we were in rotations. And then obviously when you got players in foul trouble, you gotta weigh the risk of leaving them out there.
Now, this is the part that really raised eyebrows. Both Caitlin Clark and Raven each picked up their 4th foul in the 3rd quarter. 2 primary ball handlers in foul trouble, at the same time. And listen to how the foul trouble gets framed, because the coach talks about wanting another ball handler on the floor alongside, music, Raven. That's the line that didn't sit right. Raven is one of the best ball handlers on this roster. Put her next to Kelsey, next to Caitlin, and you've got real options. So, asking for another ball handler beside one of your best ball handlers? That logic folds in on itself.
Like, when it comes to the Indiana Fever's defense, the switch is their best defense. I don't think they play anything else better, honestly. Now, they look better trapping at the end, but Portland took their feet off the gas. So I can't really judge that. But, Stephanie, you have to make adjustments when they are capital.
Here's the bigger basketball problem, and it has nothing to do with substitutions. Portland attacked the switch all night. The Fever's switching defense is their best look, maybe the only thing they run well. But Portland figured it out early, and never stopped. When an opponent is hunting your switch and cooking you on it, you have to adjust. You trap, music, you change coverage, you do something. Instead, the defense looked like 4 different schemes at once.
I didn't like the answers from Stephanie White. Now, when we talking about the defense, they looked like they were confused. It looked like they were switching at first, then it turned to a zone, and then it looked like they were trying to trap, but some players were still zoning, some players were still switching over everything, some players were fighting over the screen, some weren't. Like, it was a lot of confusion in that first half. Weren't taking care of the ball, they weren't boxing out. Like, this is just one of those games you throw away, but I want them to pay attention to the.
Watch the first half, and it's chaos, some players switching, some dropping into a zone, some fighting over the screen, some trying to trap while their teammate is still zoning. Nobody was on the same page. And Temi Megan Gustafson was the beneficiary. She shot 100%. She carved up Indiana's interior every time they blew a rotation. When one player is shooting a perfect clip against you, that is the loudest possible signal to change something. The adjustment, music, never came.
I want Stephanie White to do, use those challenges, man. That's one thing, if you paid attention to the Fire coach, he was using those challenges. He said, look, man, we running that back. I think he had 2 of them, like back-to-back, and won both of them. So, you know, Stephanie White, man, you can't keep allowing bad calls to happen and not challenge them, because that could mess up your momentum as well. That's a momentum killer, right? So if you feel like the call is bad, and it was a lot of bad calls.
And then there's the challenge flag. Pay attention to the contrast here. Portland's head coach used his challenges aggressively, threw 2 of them out and won both. Music, Stephanie White sat on hers in a game with a lot of questionable whistles. Refusing to challenge isn't just leaving points on the table, it's surrendering momentum. A bad call you let stand can swing the energy of a whole quarter. That's a tool sitting unused while the game slips away.
That's where it gets bad, though. That's where it gets bad, man. Michaela Tempson, 11 points, 3 for 5 from the field, was getting to the line. Shout out KK. She was balling out. 6 boards, 1 assist, 1 turnover, a steal, and 2 blocks. She did have that one play where she got a little lost when they were trying to figure out what to do on the defense.
Now let's be fair, because this loss is not all on the bench decisions. Look at the numbers, and the players have to own most of this. Indiana shot 41% from the field, 23% from 3. Music, they got out-rebounded badly in the first half. They gave up second chance after second chance, and a lot of those extra possessions had nothing to do with scheme. They were missed box outs. They were guys not hustling for loose balls. Portland was on the second night of a back-to-back. They had just lost to the Dream. Music, this was a giveaway game. The kind of night a contender is supposed to steal, and Indiana let it walk out the door. Effort like that isn't on a coach. A coach can call for hustle, but she can't dive on the floor for you. When players don't rotate on time, don't fight for boards, miss wide-open looks, that's a player problem, plain and simple. Caitlin Clark herself had a rough night, and the box score shows it. 6 points, 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 turnover, a steal. The shot wasn't falling, and the foul trouble pulled her out of any rhythm she might have found. But credit where it's due, her defense is trending up. When she stayed in front of her assignment, she contested cleanly and forced tough looks. There were bright spots worth naming. Kelsey Mitchell-type production off the perimeter, 11 points from one of the wings getting to the line, 3 for 5 shooting, 6 boards, a steal, 2 blocks. Sophie Cunningham was the standout scorer with 15, 3 for 5 from the floor, 2 for 4 from deep, 7 of 8 at the line, for assists. That's an efficient night from a role player. The pieces are there. Here's the strategic miss that ties it all together. This was the game to lean on the pick and roll. When Caitlin ran the pick and roll early, she got the big rolling to the rim wide open multiple times. Music, it worked. Then they drifted away from it for no clear reason. Sometimes less is more. When something is breaking the defense open, you ride it. You run it with Caitlin, you run it with Raven, you run it with whoever is out there. They abandoned the one action that was actually generating clean looks. Now zoom out, because this is the real takeaway for the Fever. Portland didn't invent that switch attack. The blueprint is out there now, and this is a copycat league. Every team that watched this tape just got a free scouting report on how to hunt Caitlin Clark and Raven in the switch and pile up fouls on Indiana's primary creators. That genie does not go back in the bottle. So Stephanie White and her staff have to live in this music film not to relitigate the substitution pattern, not to argue about the minutes, but to build the counter. When teams come hunting that switch, what's the answer? When opponents target Caitlin and Raven into foul trouble, what's the adjustment? Because it is coming every single night, until Indiana proves they can stop it. So here's the question I want from you: was this a coaching failure, a lack of adjustments and unused challenges and minutes that didn't add up, or was this simply a roster that got out-hustled and out-toughed on a night they had no business losing? You can't blame both equally. Music, pick one and tell me which in the comments. I love y'all. Keep it smooth.